Hello and welcome to a brand new 0% growths playthrough. I am Sharur and this is my third Fire Emblem 0% growths playthrough. I've done FE8 Erica's route and I've done FE7 Ellawood hard mode. I do plan to go back and do Ephraim's route and Hector hard mode respectively, but for now I am moving on to Titania starting with FE9. 0% growths. So this is hard mode. I have played Maniac mode, and after some deliberation decided it probably wasn't worth doing Maniac 0% growths. That this would be interesting enough in its own right. And I'll get into at least one of the reasons why that's the case in just a little bit. But first, I wanted to mention, so this is obviously Chapter 1. There is a prologue, but I didn't really consider it worth showing on screen because it's the same thing every time. There's like no real strategy needed to beat it, and doesn't really add anything of value or interest, in my opinion. So here we are on Chapter 1. And before I get started, I will do my normal thing of going through and talking about all of my units, starting with Ike. So, my opinion is that in a normal growths context, Ike is actually a little bit underrated. So when I first played Path of Radiance, which was the first Fire Emblem game I ever played, I loved Ike. I thought he was amazing and like super OP, and of course, a lot of that had to do with late game, destroying stuff with the Ragnall and with Ether. Also, I was probably playing on easy mode. Anyway, the point is that I definitely hadn't too high of an opinion of Ike, and I think in general the Fire Emblem community has come to the conclusion that Ike in Path of Radiance is nothing special, especially compared to all the mounted units. And I don't disagree with that, really, but I do think that if you play Maniac mode, you will find that having a trained Ike in the late game is incredibly valuable because his Ragnall is easily the best 1-2 range weapon, and it also doesn't break, which is actually a serious concern. Like, it's really hard to forge enough weapons that you don't just break all of them like during the chapter, because there's so many enemies to kill and they're so durable and they take so many hits to take down. And so yeah, I mean, the experience of playing Maniac mode to me suggested that Ike is actually a little bit underrated. Normally, when people talk about rating units, they talk about rating them on the hardest difficulty, and well, that is Maniac. So yeah, I mean, I think, I think he's if you take that into account, he's above average. But in this context, he's going to be bad. I mean, he's not necessarily any worse off than, say, Erica or Ellawood in those playthroughs, except that I think the enemy growths are higher in this game than they are in those games. So I think he's going to be more punished for not leveling up. His starting stats might actually be a little bit worse than Ellawood's, just because I think he has lower speed. So yeah, that's going to be an issue. And of course, so I mentioned, well, why is it interesting enough on hard? Well, we're not going to be able to beat the Black Knight with 0% growth psych, right? So we're going to have to run away, and then we're going to get Ina, and then we're going to have to face Ashnard with Ina, at least for the first phase, until we get Gifka. So that's going to be exciting. But that's a long time from now. Right now, Ike is, what he normally is at the beginning of the game, which is weak, and it's only going to get worse from here rather than better like it normally does. So there you have it. Alright, next up we've got Titania. Titania is an absolute monster, normally in Path of Radiance. In Maniac, she does, like, actually fall off at the end. in normal mode, or regular hard mode, I guess I should say, she doesn't really fall. I mean, she a little bit, but it doesn't really matter. Here, I think, again, because the enemy growths are a little bit higher, I'm expecting her to fall off a little bit more than Marcus and Seth do comparatively in those games in 0% growths. But I would still expect her to be carrying my team for quite some time. Especially because the units that normally like promote and start to surpass Titania, like Marcia or Jill or Kieran, they're not going to have the base stats to surpass her when they promote necessarily. Maybe like Kieran or Jill might come close. So I know Marcia won't. Anyway, I guess we'll have to see. But I don't have their base stats memorized or anything. But and let alone the promotion bonuses. But yeah, in general, Titania should be the rock of the team for a long time. We got Oscar. So Oscar is not a lot better off than Ike in most respects in terms of his bases, but the big difference is he's got a bunch more HP and a bunch more defense, in addition to being a mounted unit with Tellius Super Canto. So all of that combined means that he at least is going to be a lot better at not dying than Ike, which is really nice, especially on the early defense chapters, of which there are 2 that are actually called, defend maps, and then depending on how you play some of the others, like you can definitely end up needing to kind of like wall enemies off in roadside battle and in the one where you cross the river is. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, he's definitely not going to be an offensive juggernaut or anything, but I think he's going to be pretty useful, and I would not rule out the possibility that I promote him thanks to bonus experience. Bonus experience is going to make the whole process of like determining who to invest in and who to level up very different than it is in the GBA games on 0% growth, because we don't necessarily have to give kills to Oscar in order to promote him. We can just dump bonus experience on him. It's just a question of whether that's actually worth doing. Well, we'll have more bonus experience. We actually will have more bonus experience than we normally would to use that way, because of the fact that that we don't have any reason to give bonus experience to somebody who's already promoted, right? So, like, I mean, not that that's something you do super often anyway, certainly early in the game, but it's worth noting that there's absolutely no reason to do it with 0% growth, so you might as well just keep giving it to unpromoted units. Anyway, but either way, I mean, he's got Canto, so, he'll be useful. And then we got Boyd. Boyd's, again, got quite a bit more durability than Ike, just thanks to having 11 more HP. And that's about it. I mean, he starts off weak. He's going to stay weak, sadly. So, he's not going to do a whole lot. Okay, so having gotten all that out of the way, now it's time to actually do the chapter. So, I haven't mentioned this yet. Normally, when I do these 0% growth playthroughs, I say normally as if, like, I've done a ton of them, but I've done 2, so that's kind of a lot. I like to try to LTC as much as possible. It's not something that I am an expert on, and I don't generally, like, do a lot of, like, pre-planning, so, your mileage may vary on how close to a real LTC my playthroughs are, but that's what I try to do, and I've got what I think is a pretty nice solution to this chapter. First thing I'm going to do is have Ike visit this thing, get a steel sword. We've got plenty of iron swords, so we'll just discard one of them. And then what we need to do is get Ike to within 6 spaces of the seize tile here so that he can seize next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, right now, if we rescue Ike with Oscar, go here, Titania drops him here, he gets attacked by 3 enemies, and he has a reasonable chance of dying. I mean, some of the enemies have as low as like a 50% hit rate against him, but we don't want that. And we have a way of dealing with that, which is we have Boyd come over here, shove this guy out of the way, and now we can rescue Ike like so. Titania's going to equip the Iron Axe because she doesn't need the Steel Axe, and I want to save that because it's more valuable. Anyway, but we're going to take Ike, drop him here, and then put Titania here, and now he can only be attacked by 2 enemies. Now, Boyd can actually be attacked by 4 enemies, but for whatever reason, the AI doesn't want to do that, even though it could totally kill Boyd if it did. But one of these guys wants to attack Oscar, perhaps because of weapon triangle. But you would think if he wanted to, that the other ones would too, but they don't. I don't really know why. You'll see in a second here. This guy, for whatever reason, attacks Oscar. I guess he likes getting doubled, although Oscar missed, but it doesn't matter. Oh, you know, actually, I just realized... No, never mind. He could have run around the other side of Oscar. Yeah, I don't know why the AI does what it does. But who cares? I think this guy started here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, he totally could have gotten over there. Anyway. Alright, so now Boyd is going to go over here and visit this house. Get a Seraph Robe. And Titania is going to take out the boss. For whatever reason, you can't skip boss dialogue. Interesting design choice, that. Another Iron Axe. And then, before we seize with Ike, I'm going to have Oscar attack this guy in... Or, well, actually, let's see if he can pick up a kill. Because that's probably more valuable than an Iron Sword. This guy has a droppable Iron Sword, but he's only got a 3% chance to crit him, so... this guy, sure. Get that guy. Did you just miss a 94, Oscar? Really? Really? Come on, dude. Get it together. Alright, well, whatever. In any case, that was Chapter 1 in 2 turns. So, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time for Chapter 2. Until then.